Boardroom, Chapter 16, Part A. Morning opened on the east end of Jupiter, the largest planet in the solar system, as it had done for the past 5 years. Jupiter was a terrifying place to all the angels, but though they had not crossed the line to Pop's side that fateful day last year, they still had free run of the universe. The atmosphere was such that night went to day and back to night again very abruptly. If one did not stay in the light of the sun, one would get very cold very rapidly. Though angels did not sense cold or heat, they did have a significantly slower metabolism when no light was present. Of course, they could warp, harmonize, and morph at will. With about 10 billion of them in the rebel camp, a significant contingent was always on hand on Jupiter. Everyone hated it, yet were keenly interested in monitoring the events taking place on the little blue planet below. Few understood what was really transpiring, but they did want to know. It was like a daily soap opera. What would the happy couple do next? This little blue planet was planet 29. It was not until after Adam's 5th birthday, January 1, 3999 BC, which was coincidentally Eve's first birthday, that Pops finally consented to let the rebels of Evil Inc. have another try, their 29th, at convincing some other type of being, any type of being, that their way was the correct way and that Pop's way was wrong. It was a fairly defined line of ideas by now. It basically came down to whether the universe needed Pops or not. He was made out to be a tyrant by Evil Inc., but no one was sure if the universe would or could run along under its own power. No one knew this answer because Pops had always been there for everyone. What no angel knew or could understand was that Pops, Spirit, and Junior had been around forever. This concept of infinity or an infinite existence was not understood by any angel or any other being. The three had given endless seminars on the subject, but no one, no matter how intelligent or how much they explained it, could grasp the concept of what infinity was, a perpetual state of being. The rift between the three and Evil Inc. was now far too wide to ever be mended. The rebels were outnumbered 2-1. They pled time and time again to just let them move over to some other universe, say U-31, and just run their own lives as they pleased without interference. They guaranteed to Pops that they would keep to themselves and never disturb him or his angels ever again. But Pops remained adamant that all must adhere to his way of thought. Sending them off to some separate areas would solve nothing. He continued to stress order and unity as essential to the survival of the universe. To his credit, he was amazingly patient, but just as rigid on all issues. He got no rest as he entertained audience after audience, both public and private. The angels' attitudes varied from dissolute to resolute. What he knew all along, and the majority of angelic beings were beginning to realize, was that all was going to come to a head, and soon. The Garden of Eden, where Adam and his new bride Eve were spending most of their time caretaking the most fabulously beautiful place in all the universe, was watched constantly and expectantly. The happy couple learned to know all the animals, from the hummingbird to the Tyrannosaurus Rex. Their wedding was a private ceremony attended by Pop, Spirit, and Junior. In fact, despite vociferous complaints by both sides of the aisle, the two were never allowed to see or communicate with any angels. They were fully briefed on what angels were, their character, and what the plight of the universe was all about. They were fully aware of the conflict brewing and the reasons for it. The wedding was very beautiful. Pops presided, Spirit stood up for Eve, and Junior Adam. These humans, as Pops called them, shimmered in the afternoon sun. They wore no clothes for the most part, as they were perfectly formed. They looked to the angels to be miniatures of Pops, Junior, and Spirit. Both were perfectly formed, save the soft spot on Adam's left rib cage, which was a product of Pops forming Eve from Adam's 7th left rib. At the wedding, all were dressed in formal wear, the men in black tuxedos with tails, and Eve in classic white gown with a 100-foot train, and Spirit with a platinum gown made from the most stunning of ceremonies. Despite thousands of angels in attendance, they remained invisible to the happy couple. However, all the couple's favorite animal and bird pets were there. Adam's pet shepherd dog Leader brought in the scroll for Pops to read. Spirit had never seen him this nervous, so she had his proposed speech written down. Eve's pet python Zebo brought the rings down the aisle, and the couple was talking Mina bird. Paulo was taught and sang the wedding song. The weather, of course, was perfect, but Pop spoke a little too long, and the hundreds of animals, including many pets and 30 billion angels, eventually became very restless. A 10,000 voice choir sang the Lord's Prayer as Junior played the organ. The happy couple was not allowed to physically see the angels and assumed the music was coming from their precious birds. Adam and Eve kissed for a long time. Spirit finally pulled at Eve's arm, and Eve pulled away from Adam's kiss. As she did so, the vacuum the two created broke with a resounding pop. Both blushed, but as of that moment the two were now one. The honeymoon was a cruise of the entire world, the ports of call, and the massive Royal Ark. Pop's own personal yacht included stops at all 7 continents on Earth, which many Eve had never seen. She was only a year old, Adam was 4, and had explored the Earth fully. Of course, neither did any aging, nor did the animals once they were fully grown. The Royal Ark was 3,000 feet long and had all the amenities the happy couple could want. Eve was bug-eyed for most of the trip, during the day, that is. Their Royal Ark was complete with unlimited food. They took many of their favorite pets along, but there was something missing. They had each other to talk to. Certainly that was enough, as they were totally compatible and had become not only lovers, but fast friends in their year together. But they both wondered if there were others of their kind on this planet. There were certainly hundreds of thousands of zebras, and they didn't think there was only 2 of any other species other than their own man. They had asked Pops about it. They had asked them if there were others of their species, or if they could have babies like animals did. Pops just repeated the phrase, "all in good time," over and over again. Adam and Eve had little doubt about the good time phrase, and as they cruised the world, they constantly kept their eyes peeled, half expecting and half hoping to find not only a new species, but maybe a new human species. Unfortunately, they didn't. After 4 weeks of wedded bliss cruising their world, they were anxious to get home. Either Pop, Spirit, or Junior would meet them at every port of call and act as their guide. The two would then get back on board and spend the evening eating, drinking, dancing, soaking in the whirlpool, and then loving in their massive heart-shaped bed. Finally, after another year, with Adam now 5 years old and Eve 2, the evil ink boys finally convinced Pops to let them have at the happy couple. They needed to prove to this new couple that their way, the way of freedom, was the right way. They needed to show this new species that Pops was a tyrant. There was a brief meeting to set down the rules of engagement. It was attended only by Pops and Bells. Pops made it clear that the 3 and only 3 forms of temptation, as he put it, could be used. The garden tree that was off limits to the young couple had not really been an issue for them. They were happy and busy and weren't concerned about the tree. It was like looking at the sun or putting your hand in the fire. It was something one just didn't do. Neither Adam nor Eve could understand why Pops had spent so much time discussing it, but every angel did. And the evil ink boys got more and more upset with him every time he brought up the subject. Bells protested vociferously about having only 3 chances at Adam and Eve, but when he returned from his discussion with Pops to meet with his henchmen, none of them seemed concerned. They were of far superior intelligence, and all thought the contest was over. They had almost gotten the alien type in scenario 26. to turn, and that alien had far more intelligence than Adam or little Eve. All but Bells figured it was over. All were planning in their minds what they would do the day their exile from paradise was over. Nevertheless, Evil Inc. invested days and days of meetings into plans of attack. They reviewed the records of all their previous 28 challenges, and though there were differing opinions as to where they went wrong, they were all confident things would work out for them this time. The number one chance would go to Bells. If for some reason it failed, they would regroup and plan number two.